Hey, what's going on, guys? Next in our 30 minutes missions, this is the Alto ground type brown. And I gotta say, this is one that I'm really looking forward to. But I mean, people have been comparing this line a lot to the frame arms line, and I get the similarities, yes and no. But this one, I mean, this is the Go-Rai. I mean, just look at that. It's the Go-Rai, basically. Come on. But anyway, it looks like an awesome design, so this is probably one of my favorite ones to come out yet. I'm really looking forward to building this one up. It looks really cool. Definitely got that brown ground feel to it, so it looks great. And as always, guys, if you want to check out any 30 minutes missions kits of your own, check out the link down in the video description to USA Gundam store and use my coupon code there, ZakuAurelius10, and save 10% off everything there. So this is a 1/44 scale kit, and just like with all the other kits in the line, this is number 19 in the line. This is basically going to give us the regular Alto, which you can see down here, and then it gives you all the parts to make it into the ground type as well. So if you just wanted a brown Alto, you can also make that with this and then use the extra parts to put it on a different kit or something if you wanted to. But let's just take a look here at the bottom of the box. As always, we got a little note here saying that you only need nippers to build it, you don't need any glue, and it's got just a snap together construction there like that. Here is how it's going to look just straight out of the box. Looks pretty good. It has the tank treads there on the back and everything. Bazooka looks very cool. Over here, a little bit about the articulation in the waist and the hip section. It's got some nice articulation there, as we all know by now. We have the Roy included here also, and then here's just a nice pose there, action pose of the kit. It looks very cool. The bazooka, how it's broken down in a couple different parts, so you can get an idea of how you might want to customize that by just separating that, maybe mixing and matching some different parts. Also, the tank treads on the back can be taken off if you want. You can put those on the feet for some roller skating action, very cool. Or you can totally replace the legs and have it sort of like a Zaku tank sort of thing, like with just the on tank, but then like it's got like stub legs. I don't know. Anyway, you can do some cool stuff with that, of course. And then again, just there's a look at just the Alto that you can build with this set just as it is. And is it going to be including the gun? I'm not sure, because the flight type didn't include that gun from the Alto, but maybe that's included with this one. We'll have to see here. Here on the top of the box, once again, we've just got a custom here made with using a couple different sets, using the arm unit rifle and large claw, using the option armor for close combat, and the option parts set 1. And with this kit, you can make something like that, so pretty cool there. As always, these kits don't really cost a lot, and they're pretty typical if you're used to just building like high-grade Gunpla. Sort of like that basically, but here we got some of the parts there. We got just the same marking numbers as usual, it looks like, for the stickers. And the color of the parts looks slightly darker than what I would have expected. Very slightly though, not much. But here on the front of the manual, we have the image from the front of the box here, just now in full color with a team of Altos there, and a little bit about the story over here on this side. So if you want to check out, there is a backstory to these. Now, people have been asking me, are these like from an anime or something? What's the source material for these? No, there's no real source material, but they do have a bit of a story behind them that Ben is just kind of making up as they go along there. So it's a bit about that, a bit about the Alto ground type there, and the Roy, so you can read about that if you're interested. And once again, just showing the custom build you can make just with some example parts there. I'm using some of the Alto green parts in there as well to get that green color, and then also some of these option parts there that is just showing you, giving you an example. And I like that. I like that they give you an idea, or at least like some ideas for how you might want to customize this, because it might be a bit intimidating, because with so many different kits and option parts and stuff in the line, at this point, there's a lot of stuff, so people might benefit from having a little bit of like hints as to how they might want to customize this. So anyway, here is about the construction of the armor parts, like the optional parts, and then just customizing this by mixing and matching with other different Alto or Portanova kits to give you multiple different colors or different shapes and things like that. Again, just another look at the custom build there. We've got the parts list here as well, also in color. And speaking of color, do these kits not have a color guide in the manual? I don't recall actually ever seeing any sort of color guide in any of these kits actually. I haven't noticed that on any of the other previous kits, so interesting. No color guide for these, but once again, you just build up the construction there. Here's the parts for the backpack, the tank backpack, the bazooka there, and some of the other option parts there. The rest of this just going through the construction, and if it's anything like the other kits, it's basically showing you how to build it just as like the standard Alto here, but it does look a little bit different actually. Building some of those parts along with that, but it should still, I mean, yeah, you can see you do still have all the parts to make just the original Alto, and it just gives you the instruction guide for those as well, or just building it as the ground type. So you kind of just have to pay attention to the instructions to see what you're building, but it's all, you know, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It's not that confusing. I mean, you just kind of put it together. So we get in here is that standard marking sticker sheet for all of the Alto kits. It's just numbers in black and white. You've got large, medium, and small size of those. And our polycaps here, PC7 for some polycap ball joints in gray. And then runner A here in 3 colors. We got the kind of light tan color for all throughout the center, that darker brown color for some of the parts there around the sides, and then the yellow part there, clear yellow part, for the visor, all these parts just to make the regular Alto. And then runner B in a darker brown color here for the hands and joint parts and all that. Then we got runner UTF1 for these parts that are specific for making the ground type, and then we do also have UTF2, which is a copy of all this section of the runner minus those parts there on the side. And then runner UTG1 here in just a standard medium gray color is more parts for making the ground type, the tank parts over there and the bazooka parts. Then we do also have runner UTG2, which is a copy of the tank parts there. So there you have it. Looks pretty straightforward. Let me go ahead and get this built up and then we'll see how it looks. Okay, so here's how it's going to look, and it's definitely clear to see why this is one of the most popular designs, I think, from the series so far. Amongst the feedback that I've heard, a lot of people really like this one, and it definitely has, I think, a very kind of safe design in that it's a design that I think will have a lot of mass appeal, being a very kind of tank mecha design, and so like something that you would expect for like a mecha robot that's very tank-like, bulky, and like a lot of big angular armor and stuff. And so it's not something that's quite as weird and wild as like the Portanova space type, which we previously took a look at, or even the Alto flight type with its kind of goofy legs. And this is a very kind of, when you imagine a tank style mecha or like a bulky armor mecha, this is pretty much exactly what you might picture. And so it's very cool. Of course, the construction went together just like the Alto. You can build the regular Alto as we saw just in the unboxing portion, and then you can also just switch out the legs and the face armor and obviously the backpack and stuff for making this. Now, a couple people have asked in past reviews, does this come with the original Alto rifle? No, this doesn't, unfortunately, come with the original Alto's regular rifle. This kit also doesn't come with the original Alto's regular backpack either, so in case anyone was wondering, just want to let you guys know that as well. But there's some really interesting stuff that you can do with this kit, so let's go ahead and take a closer look. But first, I just want to take a look at this comparison here. Now, this is of course the frame arms Go-Rai, and you can see a pretty striking similarity between the two of them. Now, I mean, they're both kind of with having like a similar theme, so obviously they're going to look kind of similar. But I just want to also make this point that I think a lot of people are comparing the 30 Minutes Missions line to frame arms, saying that it's sort of like Bandai's answer to Kotobukiya's frame arms line, where I just don't really necessarily agree with that comparison. I think there are similarities between some certain kits, but I think if you were to compare with anything, the 30 Minutes Missions line seems more similar to Kotobukiya's Hexagear line, actually, where all the stuff is made to be very interchangeable, where you have that with certain frame arms kits, but there's quite a wide variety among frame arms kits as well. Like, you have certain ones that are very compatible with certain parts, but aside from a lot of them sharing the same inner frame, a lot of the armor is not very mix and matchable. My point is that if anything, Kotobukiya has to compete with Bandai, it's not the other way around. So this is basically just Bandai's attempt to make a line that's very focused on customization, and just so happens to be that frame arms kind of did that in a way first, but Bandai, I think, is definitely doing it a lot more effectively. Now, once again, with this kit, we of course have the little Roy. It's the same design as we've seen in past kits and probably future kits as well. It's just in this brown color now. And then we've got the leftover parts of just the original Alto. So for example, you have the original Alto's feet, as well as the face armor, which is pretty interesting how it's really not that different. The new face armor here that we have for the ground type is not very different from the original face armor, but you can tell it's just a very much bulkier design, and it has a little sort of like side camera or something on the side of the head there, which is pretty cool. We also have the original side skirt armor, which is just plug onto the side there, but I mean, it's just a standard little 3mm connector for that, so I mean, this could be very easily used as just a little detail up part, something like that, to just stick on somewhere. But I will say it's kind of really strange how all of these connection points all seem the same, but sometimes they're just slightly different. Like for example, plugging this part into here, it's actually a little bit loose, where plugging that onto the actual side skirt, the connection size should be the same, but it's just very slightly different. So sometimes you'll have that some connection points are a little bit looser than others, and it's kind of strange why that is. But anyway, then we of course do also have the original lower leg piece as well here. as the original knee armor. Now this new version has this much bulkier version of the knee armor there, as well as just kind of the lower leg. Everything, all the new parts are just much more bulky. Of course, that's the theme of the kit. But then other new parts here, we have these connection bits which will be used for the tank parts. I'll show you how those are used here in just a moment. And then the weapon for this is this cool new bazooka, which is pretty interesting. I like the design of this. This front handle here can just be rotated around like that. Otherwise, this just fit down into the hand. And like with all the 30 minutes mission stuff, this is broken down into sections, so where you could mix and match and customize this in different ways if you wanted to, just by the way that this is broken down into its different sections. And this part here at the front, for example, you could take that off and just move that stuff around to make a different looking sort of rifle gun sort of thing like that, grenade launcher or something, for example. Anyway, very cool. The one thing that it doesn't include, at least with this set though, is some sort of connector piece to be able to just plug this onto the suit, to the mecha when not in use. But of course, if you just have a piece of just a peg from the runner, just cut off a piece of the runner and just use that. It's like a 3mm peg to just stick this into the side of there, easy enough. But also some of the different option parts sets have little connectors that you could use for that as well. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later. Now, as for these tank parts on the backpack, and the articulation in general of the kit is going to be exactly the same as past kits, so we don't really need to get into that. The way the shield connects onto the arm is just on this little piece here, like that, which will allow you to rotate that kind of around. So if you wanted to have this, again, sort of pointing forward like that, covering the sort of hand more so than the side of the arm like that, you could do something like that as well. Now, it doesn't really have any sort of point to it to be used as like a blunt weapon, but I guess you could still sort of use it like that anyway. But the tank treads here on the back part, these can be rotated down, but as they are just on the back, they're kind of just meant to just be stuck on there like that. But that's not the only thing that you can do with them. If we remove these off of here, one thing you can do is use this connector piece, which I just mentioned a moment ago, connect this onto the back of the feet, and then connect our tank treads onto there like that. And very similar to the Go-Rai, now those can be attached onto the back of there like that, or folded up on the back of the legs like so. If you had like two of this kit, you could have tank treads like folded up onto the back of the legs and on the backpack at all at the same time, which could look kind of cool, very bulky, and you'd have like a really big look on the back of the side of it there. But if we take these connectors off the shields, there's another thing you can do here with this. Plug this up underneath the bottom of the feet there, like that there, and then plug this onto the top of the tank parts here like that. Then you can have tank tread roller skates for him. So now the only problem with this then is that you don't have your connector pieces for the shield, but again, it would be very easy to just make a simple connector piece for plugging that onto the arm if you wanted to as well. But that's a pretty cool look. You can totally remove the lower legs there and turn this again sort of into like a Zaku tank sort of looking thing. And then you just rotate that knee down like that, and then this will plug into the top of here like this, and there you go. Now you've got tank legs for him. So some pretty cool combinations that you can make with this. And just real quick, there's one other cool thing that you can do with the tank parts. If you just take off this whole backpack and kind of turn this stuff around a little bit, you notice that like here on the center of the backpack, it's made to look like sort of windows. So you can actually basically turn this whole backpack part into its own just kind of tank like that by itself. And now your Alto has no backpack, but of course you could get some other different weapons, backpack or parts set or something for that, or take a backpack from a different kit or something, attach it onto there if you wanted to, and have this just as like a support unit. Or again, if you were going to buy more than one of these, you could have just one as just like a tank just sort of thing. And you could definitely plug plenty of stuff onto the top of that. You can see you have tons of hard points on there for plugging on more weapons or cannons or something onto the top of this. So a lot of really cool options that you can do with these tank parts. But I mean, admittedly, the tank legs form is a little bit goofy. It's not something that I think I would end up doing with this, but it's cool that you can do it either way. That's the thing, is that I think that it's cool that you have that option. And obviously you could get a little bit more creative mixing and matching this, turning it into something that is maybe more interesting. Maybe if you had, again, more than one of this, because you can use those connector pieces to link up the tank treads together. So if you were turning it into like one that didn't have just like one set of tank treads for the legs, but 2 or 3, or linking a couple of them together, so it could be something kind of cool, doing something sort of like a Dom triple attack sort of thing with just 3 of these like all linked up together. It would be kind of cool. Anyway, so there's different things you could do with it, of course, that could be more interesting. And I think the other different forms, other different ways to use the tank treads, just on the backpack or just attached onto the back of the feet or the underside of the feet, I think are much more interesting in my opinion. So it's a really cool kit, definitely one of my favorites in the line so far, which, you know, I've only built a couple of them, and there really aren't a ton of designs in the line so far, but this one definitely is really cool. And if I think you're not really particularly too interested in this line quite yet, but you are a fan of just kind of mecha kits in general, this is probably the one that I think that, again, I think is going to have the most appeal to people who are just kind of into just mecha model kits in general. It's definitely going to look really cool, all weathered up in sort of desert colors, as it is molded like this, but just painting it up in some nice desert colors and giving it lots of sand and dust weathering and stuff like that. It's definitely going to be looking very cool. So ground type, it definitely gets a big thumbs up from me. What do you guys think about it though? Let me know down in the comment section below. Is it really as popular as I think it is from my perception of what I've heard from you guys and people just around in the community, or not? Or what's your favorite in the line so far? I don't know. I do really like the Portanova Marine type though quite a bit, and we'll be taking a look at that kit up next for our next 30 minutes missions review. But for the time being, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. If you do have any other further questions or comments about this kit, you can let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and do check out the link down in the video description below to USA Gundam Store to check out all the different 30 minutes mission stuff we have there on the site. So just don't forget to use my coupon code ZakuAurelius10 to save yourself 10% off all of that stuff. Alright guys, have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.